back with another episode of the Agency Podcast. My name is Eugene.
And I'm Candy.
And we are in Toronto.
Together. And maybe we'll be looking at each other and I won't be interrupting him.
I won't step over you.
I'll try not to step over you.
I won't interrupt.
I'll try to pretend I'm interviewing you.
Okay.
And you pretend you're interviewing me.
Okay.
All right. I hope we have something to talk about. Hey, thanks for listening and thanks for checking in. We haven't done a podcast in a couple weeks. And it should be kind of fun. We've seen a couple of movies and have you been gardening?
Oh my goodness. Well, Sheila's been doing most of the gardening. She's just obsessed with the garden this year and she's doing such a fantastic job. She's been able to work in the garden more this year. She's been working at removing invasives from the garden and replacing them with Ontario native plants.
Nice.
And so she's been transforming our garden in really interesting ways.
Yeah. No, it's perfection.
And I love it, although I do kind of miss the Solomon seal out, which I did sort of love.
What does that mean? A Solomon seal?
Solomon seal is a kind of plant.
Oh.
And it grows really fast in places that are hard to grow things. So we had them growing right under our honey locust tree and also against the fence in an awkward little spot. They were doing really, really well, but they are technically an invasive. Yeah. But she was allowed one of them to grow out by the Imagination Station in the backyard, and the ones in front have been replaced with beautiful native plants.
Nice. Well, when you said Solomon seal, I thought you were talking the language of magic, so I got excited there.
Interestingly, there are 3 plants. There's one called Solomon seal, and there's 2 plants that are known colloquially as false Solomon seal.
Oh.
And they look a lot like Solomon seal, but they aren't actually related. And one of the ways that you tell them apart is that I think with one of them, I think it's with Solomon seal, the blooms hang down, and the false Solomon seals, they go up. Or is it vice versa? I am no horticulturalist. No. I love the garden and I do my best out there, but I certainly there are big gaps in my knowledge.
Did I tell you? Maybe I've already told the story. When I was in Wisconsin, I went and heard a horticulturist and biologist speak. Did I already talk about that?
No.
I didn't?
Oh,
it was fantastic. My friend Tricia is on a board of directors for the city of Kenosha. That's the weekend I saw Civil War and disturbingly in the city of Kenosha, and where the shootings happened of protesters. But he spoke about how he went ahead, and they had been doing this for a long time. They have been planting trees that came from the area of Kansas in Wisconsin, because the temperature of Wisconsin in 20 years will be the temperature of Kansas. They're not arguing whether there's a collapse of climate. They're not arguing whether there's change or climate change. They're just doing it because you're going to need shade in 20 years. Well, and the trees that grow there now maybe, isn't that amazing though? Well, it's with the city of Kenosha. It's through an educational program there. He was a wonderful guy. I feel terrible. I can't remember his name, but I did take a picture of him. I'll try and find it. And it was what a great speak. And you could feel the room kind of go quiet. Like, were they about to argue about climate change? But they're already planting them.
You know, someone was talking to me about the city of Toronto strategy, planting trees going back like 30 years ago. And I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but it was most interesting because right now we have a lot of Norway maple that have been planted by the city. They're all over the city. They're the ones which later in the season you see get big black spots that are known as car spots. Yeah. You see them all the time. They don't actually hurt the tree, but they are, I guess, unsightly, big black spots on the leaves. But the Norway maple is really like a weed. And it isn't the best tree for cities to plant. And I had no idea why Toronto would have decided to plant it. But it seems that Toronto decided to plant those trees because we needed to build canopy fast.
Yeah, like a sumac.
And they grow really fast.
Like sumac.
So we planted lots of them. And now a lot of them are being replaced by trees that are native.
Yeah.
So it's not that they didn't know. But they needed to get the trees.
To cool the city down.
That's kind of interesting.
Well, and it gets terribly hot in cities.
Sometimes I think our tree gurus there at the city of Toronto know what they're doing. Other times I wonder.
Yeah.
because they don't seem to have a handle on the canopy in terms of building, because our current premier Doug, uh, he he wants build,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
cut down those trees,
yeah,
build,
yeah.
because we have a housing challenge here in Toronto, and so his solution is just open up a building, but
Mhm,
nobody's building the affordable housing.
mhm, that's
Right.
right.
So it's one of those things. Well, if we just keep building the bloody big mansions, it'll
Mhm.
trickle down to the unwashed
It's
masses.
well proven that it doesn't.
It doesn't
And,
seem to be
and the
happening.
thing is, it's not wrong to want to build in cities. But the future is cities. I don't know if this is true, but I've heard it argued that the ethical place to live is a city. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't feel one way or the other. I don't know. But so in that way, it's good. But the most important thing is affordable. And by affordable, it should be $500 a month right now. That would be affordable. But I mean, for people who don't have money.
You know, the last time I paid $500 per month, I was living on Ossington Avenue in
Yeah.
the 80s.
Yes.
And at that time, I rented a storefront for, it was actually $5.50 a month,
Hmm.
all inclusive.
Hmm.
And I shared it with another artist. And we had
Hmm.
2 studios, and
Hmm.
we built a shared kitchen and shared
Hmm.
bathroom in the
It was a
basement.
great place.
And it was pretty funky. It
Yeah.
had its challenges for sure, but we were paying at most $5.50 a month.
Well, what's funny? It's like, how do we define affordable housing? And that was an affordable place because it
It
was, it was,
was.
it was, it was all over the place. You had a diverse group of people trying to find a place to live. But if you have, I remember when I was a kid, my dad was like, you pay 1/4 of your paycheck for rent,
Uh-huh.
and I mean that's long over. The
That's a
problem.
lovely idea, though, isn't it?
But I think it used to be that way. I think that was the theory. So that's where you lived. The thing is now, if we want people to pay these insane amounts of rent, even whatever they consider affordable here, what would that be? 2,000 a month? I don't know. What would be Toronto's
I don't know. I
when
can't even
when you're in
imagine.
City Hall, what are they arguing? Because it comes up affordable rent, but it should say a number. They should say a number, and then the city has to go, well, we can't do that, or we're gonna make it 1,500, not 1,000. It has to be 1,500. Then you have to give people universal income. That's the way to do it.
Well, I'm a proponent of universal basic income. I think there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the conservatives in the community who were initially in favor of it have taken such a staunch stance against it, because I would think it's a conservative idea.
Yes, it is, and I mean small c
Uh,
conservative. I consider myself a small c conservative.
we have all these people who
Family.
work for a welfare system that wouldn't be needed if everybody had a basic income. So how many incomes wouldn't the city be paying? Now that creates an unemployment issue, because those people who had those jobs administering welfare wouldn't have those jobs anymore.
Right, but you still may wanna have welfare with universal income. What if it
Why?
well, how much do you think the basic universal income would be? Let's talk about that.
I have no idea.
Well, let's say it's 2,000, just for the sake of it. So then you've got Joe Blow, he gets $2,000, and then you've got Jane Blow, and she gets $2,000. Then you have Jane Blow and 2 kids, and she gets $2,000. She may want to apply for a welfare on top
No,
of
I
that.
don't think that
It
works.
wouldn't have to work that way?
I don't think it can work
It
that way,
can't work that way,
because I
okay.
think the only way, it's lovely to think you could have a welfare system
Yeah.
and universal
Well,
basic income,
I'm guessing.
but I don't know
Yeah.
where the money will come
Right.
to pay the universal
Right.
basic income,
Okay.
unless you take it from the welfare system, which
Okay.
we're already spending all that money, including the money we're paying people to administer it.
I see what you're
Like,
saying.
that's where all the
Well, I
money
just
is.
don't know because that's what I'm saying. Like, I literally am trying to figure that out as we're sitting here. So that makes sense. I was throwing the opposite so I could see
Yeah,
where it
I think
goes.
I'm thinking that if you don't have that system in
Yes.
play, then all that money can be available for basic income.
Right. And then one thing we've talked about before is that everyone gets it, even rich people. No matter what your income is, you get that check every month. Whether let's say it's $2,000, which is not enough to live in Toronto. It's not enough. And people, if it's ethical to live in a city, we need to be encouraging
Yeah.
people to stay in the city, right? Not damage small towns and wilderness. I'm just guessing. So you get rid of the welfare, you get rid of that stuff. You're right. Then suddenly you don't have them working, but you have that money coming in on back from the rich people that are going to be giving that money back every year. So there would still be paperwork on that
Yeah, through the tax
through
system.
the tax system.
So
Correct.
I don't know how exactly it could work. I think
Yeah.
there's lots of challenges to make it work.
And good
And
ones.
I don't really have a good answer.
I
I'm
don't
not
either.
very schooled on that
No.
kind of stuff.
Toronto
But
blog might know.
it seems to me that that direction is a good direction to go for people here.
Yeah.
Certainly where we're at now is very difficult, and you just have to get out and about in the city and see people living in every possible place.
Well, you've kind of been doing that, haven't you?
Well, as it turns out, I
You got a
have.
segue here.
It's a thing, unless they
I
got
threw it
segue.
on you there, sorry.
Okay, so you know, since the pandemic,
Mhm.
like most of us, my general circle of activities shrunk.
Mhm.
I got used to staying close to home.
Mhm.
I re-geared my life for staying close to home, and I started doing activities like learning to play fiddle, which I could do close to home.
Mhm.
And
Taking your dog friends to Jack Darling.
so I started to feel that I wasn't getting out and about in the same with the same frequency and the same kind of
Mhm.
let's say engagement with
Mhm.
the city that I used to have. And I thought I want to do something about that. I don't want to be a forever couch potato because we had this pandemic. So I had this little idea that I would go out a few times a week
Mhm.
with a camera to places that I used to know
Mhm.
that have changed,
Mhm.
places that I used to know that haven't changed,
Mhm.
places that I've never been in the city, places that I didn't even know existed, places that people have suggested to me
Mm.
that I go to, and go out and just start doing walks and filming them.
Mhm.
So I started a YouTube channel
Mhm.
because one of the things about the way I operate on the planet is that if I give myself some kind of structure that encourages the goals that I want to achieve, I'm more likely to achieve those goals.
Mhm.
So, in other words, to give another example, um, I've tried to learn a lot of music on my own with some success.
Mhm.
But when I got a music teacher for fiddle, I started to learn way faster. And in part, it has to do with the skill of my teacher, who's pretty incredible, but also the fact that every week I'm going to go back and play what I've learned from my teacher. I
Mhm.
want it to be as good as I
Mhm.
can, so it drives my work.
Mhm.
So it's the same kind of thing. I'm thinking if I have the structure to and the goal of trying to grow this channel, this YouTube channel, I'll go out there and do the videos. And doing the videos is going to get me out in the city. So I've already have 3 published, and I have maybe 3 or 4 in the bag ready to go because I want to get ahead of things.
Mm.
And I'm going to
That's
take a
great.
shot at growing this channel, which is a pretty interesting prospect because there are squillions of people out there doing
Mm.
YouTube channels
Mhm.
and doing YouTube channels about places
Yeah.
and about everything. I mean, everything is on the YouTube
Good
machine.
cooking, home
Sure.
repair, do it
All
yourself.
kinds of instructional
Yep.
things. And heck, I just want to go out there and wander around the city, which one might think is like, who wants to see that? But what occurred to me is that one of the things that I like to do is watch videos of people wandering around other cities
Yeah.
that aren't mine.
Yes, so true.
And so I've watched lots of videos in Vietnam because
Yeah.
I like the place, but also videos about um, there's one channel I found where people wander through Appalachia.
Mm.
There's a couple of channels that wander through a neighborhood of Philadelphia that you don't ever want to go to,
Right.
but is strangely compelling
Mhm.
because I've never seen anything like it.
Mhm.
You know, and it's like one of the largest open air drug markets on the
Yeah.
planet is in this neighborhood in Philadelphia, and you see all of these people doing the heroin hang.
I know, it's so sad.
It's chilling, but
And
strangely compelling
Yeah.
at the same
And
time. I
it's
mean,
not a
in a
secret.
weird voyeuristic kind
Yeah.
of way, because we aren't there and we aren't experiencing that hell.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's also bringing attention to it in a way. It could promote caregiving. It could, or some services for recovery. So you've started a YouTube channel.
And then
what's it called?
It's called Rediscovering My Toronto.
I love
And
it.
if you search on YouTube for Rediscovering My Toronto, you will find it. That's your
Right.
job, is to search on YouTube, find Rediscovering My Toronto. And well, it isn't mandatory for listeners of this podcast to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It is strongly encouraged. And we will be sending someone to your door to check if you've subscribed.
Right.
So here's the thing. Part of what I'm doing is I want to try to grow the channel. And I'm fascinated with how this YouTube thing works.
Mhm.
And so I've been doing some research on YouTube channels and, well, how they grow and how they work.
Right.
And they operate with an algorithm, much like so much does today, that looks at your content, groups your content, figures out what you're doing and who might want to see your videos, and then it starts to present your videos beside other videos that people are watching, which is what you want. It's one thing for me to harass all of my friends. Well, okay, I've been doing it. All right, to go and subscribe to the damn channel.
Right.
Have you subscribed yet? By the way, I'll give you a couple minutes.
I did. And if you don't know how, and you're listening somewhere, maybe in some quiet area of the world, and you can email us at theagency.podcast@gmail.com, and we'll send you the link. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
so,
in case.
So I started looking at the analytics, which is really fascinating. When you start to get into this, the YouTube people break down a lot of your stats in very interesting ways, so you can see where your viewers are coming from. So just having started out, for instance, 64% of my viewers are coming from Facebook, which means that 64% of my viewers are coming because they've seen my posts that I've put on social media, cross posts onto Facebook, and your posts as well, promoting it. And that isn't quite what I want. 14.6% of people are coming from YouTube suggestions. So what I need to do, if I really want to grow this thing, is I need to drop the viewers from Facebook and grow the viewers from YouTube, because I want to get viewers who don't know me.
Yes.
That are seeing it because they're watching somebody else rediscovering their city and then seeing this pop up. And interestingly, some of the YouTube gurus are saying that more recently, this year specifically, they're seeing more and more small channels appear in their YouTube surfing. And it's maybe YouTube addressing a challenge that they have, which is that when channels start to grow, they grow exponentially. And so channels that have a huge amount of growth, and then you get all the real little guys. And it's been very difficult for the little channels to break through to become bigger channels. And it seems that YouTube is trying to encourage more ideas out there because it's better for their business. They want you to grow your small channels into big channels because it's more money for them.
Because they advertise on there.
That's right. And the way it's structured is that before you can monetize your video channel on the YouTube, you need to accrue 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of viewing.
And that is why it would really be helpful if you subscribe to his.
So that's why you'll hear not just me, but all new YouTubers say, please subscribe. Because in order to get monetized, they have to get up to that 1,000 subscribers. After that, the number of subscribers isn't as big a deal. It's more the retention. The YouTube algorithm wants to see
people looking at it.
People looking at it and coming back to it reliably. So my research has said that you want to make sure early on, especially, that you have as many new videos going up. Give the YouTube algorithm lots of content so it has plenty of data in order to parse out what you're doing and present it. And the last thing you want is, you don't want to be in like subscriber jail, where YouTube just doesn't present your your videos to anybody.
Mm.
So if you want to grow it, you have to find a way to keep that, to keep feeding the algorithm in positive ways. So I'm figuring that stuff out. Why does it matter? Well, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it and try, well, try to be successful.
Try to lock horns
Now,
with the algorithm.
that said,
Yes.
for the longest time, I've gone out of my way not to monetize anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for starters, in my art career, I am the worst promoter in the whole world. I couldn't sell a painting.
Right.
Heck, I do sell some paintings, but not very many.
Right.
And
you're nervous about talking about it.
I'm just not a very good salesperson that way. And with my blog and other bits of social media, I've never wanted to have that related to a monetary transaction. I always felt that it was my baby, and I wanted to keep my baby somehow pure. But I would also like to have a bigger audience, and growing a bigger audience turns out it's the same thing as
monetizing. And that's the thing with the podcast, is that you want listeners. You actually have to promote it all the time.
And I can't stop ads on YouTube. I cannot stop it. They're going to put ads on my YouTube channel whether or not I get paid for it. So I might as well get a little bit of the pie.
And people can skip the ad after it plays for a few seconds. It's not that disruptive.
Exactly. I have to do it all the time because I'm a YouTube watcher, for sure.
What else have you noticed about algorithms? See, now listen, I've had a YouTube page for probably 20 years. Never even knew there was an analytic page.
And so it doesn't grow.
At it. I don't think so. I've had a number of great hits. Like I mean,
certain
views,
videos, yes.
Certain videos that I have one. The first video I put on YouTube, 2006, maybe one of the first videos I put on there was of a guy making a burrick in London, Ontario. I should go back and find him again and compile those two videos. That'd be interesting because people loved that video. I got 20,000 views on it or something.
You know,
without trying.
On my personal blog, which is 27th Street.me, 27th Street.me, in case you wanted to go visit it, because you'll see also more insight into the videos if you go to the blog. But the two biggest posts on my blog in the history of my blog.
I know one.
You know what they are?
One of them is Johnny Cash's finger.
Yes, it is. It is. I posted a picture of the poster that American Recordings put out when the Johnny Cash first American Recordings album came out, and it had a picture of Johnny Cash at, I think it's Folsom Prison, giving the finger to somebody, and he has a scowl on his face. It's just really quite wonderful, and it has a little statement that, you know, Johnny Cash would like to thank the Nashville music establishment for their ongoing support.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was really delightful. Anyway, that post just kept on giving over and over and over again. I got thousands of visits based on that. But because it was an exception, that didn't translate to people saying, oh, what a great blog. I think I'll come visit here. So that isn't what the doctor ordered, but it was still good. The other one that was really popular, I went away for a while, and it was at a time I was blogging every single day. And back in the day when there were so many bloggers and we had quite a wonderful community where everyone was sending each other to each other's blogs. And now Facebook kind of, excuse my French, fucked that up. Because most of those people now just go to Facebook and they do the same things on Facebook. I think it's quite
no, it's not as personal.
It's
not as personal or as inventive and creative. Blogs were very creative. People made their own screens, their own designs, and they wrote stories and made an effort to tell stories, and they knew someone was reading it too. Whereas in Facebook, you're just clicking. You're going past pretty quickly. That's why memes are so powerful on Facebook. They say something.
But it becomes Facebook just becomes a city of memes. And the memes, I'm sorry, I appreciate that people like to have a point of view and express their point of view. But if you take something that's complex and put it into a 15-word meme because it gets across your opinion about something and ignores everything else, it's like, I know my Facebook friends. And I know what their politics are. I don't need them to tell me every day and hammer me with memes with their Facebook politics. I don't care.
I like them if they're funny. I love them if they're
Yeah,
funny.
lots of people do.
Yeah, yeah,
I digressed
that's all
because
right.
I was speaking about what my other big
Oh, yeah, hit was.
hit was, and she posted during that week so many years ago. You may remember IKEA published a catalog in which on the cover of their catalog they had a dog, and the
Yeah,
dog had an unusually enormous Johnson,
right, right.
uh, or it appeared to
I
be.
do remember the issue about it, yeah.
So she posted that picture.
Oh, and that
Thousands
oh
of
my
people
God.
came to my
So
blog,
funny.
but once again, they didn't look at anything else on the blog. They
Right.
just wanted to see that
Yeah,
picture.
yeah.
So in a way, it wasn't very
Yeah, yeah.
helpful. And
If you were monetizing it, it would have been
Yeah.
helpful because you would have got the traffic.
now that blog situation, I like still my blog and I still blog,
Yeah.
and it's becoming more robust again as I'm doing this rediscovering my Toronto
Ah.
business, because I'm able to write about the videos
And
they
cross-reference.
yes, and they kind of go together in a
Yes.
way that I'm enjoying.
Yes.
So it's kind of getting a second life,
Mm.
which I really like.
Mhm.
But largely the community is gone.
Mm.
Most of the bloggers have gone a monetizing route.
Mhm.
And examples are, for instance, the mummy bloggers.
Mhm.
The mummy bloggers, the mummy blogging business is huge.
Yeah, well, it was one of the biggest. It started out huge too, even when we were blogging back in 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so most of the active blogs are really about selling you things you don't want. So I never wanted to do that with my
Yeah.
blog,
Yeah.
but I decided that with the YouTube, since the ads really are very difficult to get rid of, and in the end, you're going to see them. Um, if they're going to be there, I want to take advantage of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And also, you know me, I like puzzles.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
puzzle of trying to uh, grow the channel and figure out the algorithm and try to get people in different parts of the world looking at
Right. Right.
my reflections
On
on
Toronto.
Toronto.
Yes.
I or Toronto.
Toronto.
And how do we say
Toronto.
how do you say Toronto?
Toronto.
You say Toronto
Absolutely.
always?
I breathe that last T just a little bit.
I usually say Toronto unless I think about it,
Mhm.
and then I say Toronto
Well,
because I get
I
self-conscious.
think I almost always stop and think about it before I say it. I
so-
prefer to say Toronto, but I didn't grow up here. I think
Right.
people that grow up here, it comes off.
With my father, it was more Trawnna.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Trawnna,
it's
not
a
even
sing
Toronto.
song because we don't sing consonants. So it's a sing song. Let's say it, but I do take the breath to say
So
Toronto.
this is a question
Yep.
for our audience.
Oh, how do you say
Do you say
Toronto?
Toronto, Toronto?
I'd
Door
love
number
to
one,
know.
door number
I'd
two,
love to
door
know.
number three.
Yeah. It's funny because on this podcast a couple of years ago, I think it was just at the beginning when Edward Snowden wrote his book, I read out one of his opening paragraphs about the inventive time of blogging and then social media taking it over. And I've got a little letter composed to send to his legal representatives, hoping he will read that on my film.
Ah,
I'm hoping he will read it. I'll hire an actor to read it or get you to read. Well, I was going to get you to read Sutri
okay.
on my soundtrack of my film. But anyway, I'm hoping that.
I'll have my agent talk to your
Okay,
agent,
thanks.
and we'll see if we
Thanks.
can
Well, once
negotiate
you
a deal.
get, I should probably put this in before you get monetized.
Of course, because when I'm living the good life
I
here
know.
in Toronto,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just funny.
so that's my fun
Yeah, it's
project.
great.
I've already been out filming all over the place.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to get as much content out as I can so I can give the algorithm something to work
Something
with.
to work with.
And so I've been frantically getting out there filming and learning.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a background as a videographer.
Yeah.
Some people are tremendously skilled at that.
Well, it's so user friendly now. It's so
Yes,
and also we want the different angles, the different perspectives. It makes it more interesting, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
So for me, the key thing is to find the places that either interest me for some reason, or that I have something to say about, or that I don't know.
Mhm.
But also, I'm looking for recommendations as to places in the city
Great
that maybe
idea.
you would like me to visit and
Yeah.
do a video on.
Great idea.
Because there's a lot of my city that I've grown up in and around Toronto all my life. There's a lot of the city I've never even been to.
Mhm.
Hard to believe. Maybe I've driven through it, but
Well, I would say over by the Duke where we meet Dr. K and Leslie Jones would be a fun place
That would be a great
to
place.
trip around there.
I have the first recommendation
Oh,
came in, and that recommendation is to walk from on Jane Street from Annette. I would start. There's a restaurant there known as the Fiddler's Dell, which when I was growing up was called the Dairy Dell,
wow.
and um, that was like a diner style restaurant with booths and that kind of thing. I don't know what it's like now, but I drove by recently and saw it's now the Fiddler's Dell, and I thought, well, this is the street for me. Oh yes, yes, yes. So the recommendation is to walk from Annette Street down to Bloor Street with a stop along Methuen, because Methuen was the street where it was the first move west for my parents when they started to, well, I guess, grow up in adulthood, work for longer, be able to afford a little bit more. Most of my family on my dad's side, they're Junction people. My dad was born in Montreal, and his parents came from Chicago.
That's crazy.
And at some point, Poland was involved, but I don't know how far back, because I just know it was Chicago to Montreal, because my grandpa was in the glove business, and he had some experience working in Chicago in the glove business, and somehow, for some reason that I don't know, they moved up here, and they moved first to Montreal and then to Toronto. And I'll tell you a little story. At some point, my grandpa had opened the Queen City Leather Works in the Junction,
right?
And
which has a very bizarre fetish sounding name now.
Yeah, really.
But it was innocent back then.
But my father was sent by my grandfather to go to what's the name of the town? The town across the river from Ogdensburg.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know where Ogdensburg is.
I will think of the name of it.
Is it in the United States?
No. It's along the St. Lawrence. In Eastern Ontario. It's near Cornwall, your favorite town.
Hey, those are my biggest fans in Cornwall. They took my art seriously. They're some of the few people that ever took my art that seriously.
That's true.
I was censored in Cornwall, and my artwork was an installation torn apart, put away in the back office.
And then
it occurred to me. They didn't tell us, and it's occurred to me over the years. Wow, they are the people that took my artwork very seriously. So seriously, they had to hide it. Sorry.
Yeah. So
yes, Cornwall.
Anyway, my father went out there, and somehow there, through the leather business, he met some people from a family called Bata, and Bata are the shoe people.
Yeah, BATA.
And my father knew the daughters of the Bata Empire, and he used to say that he'd go out and he'd meet the Bata girls, and they would say, "Joe, you're such a good dancer. Come dance with me." And he would go dancing with the Bata girls. There's now a museum in Toronto called the Bata Shoe Museum.
It's fantastic.
I wonder if those women are still roaming the planet, and if they remembered him. You know,
it's something worth writing to him about.
He then came back and worked with Grandpa in the Queen City Leather Works for a while. And on my mom's side of the family, they came to Canada from Poland when my mom was about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old. She was quite young, and they came by boat. And my mom remembered that on the boat, they gave her oranges. And she had never had oranges before.
Oh my God.
So for her,
I can't even imagine.
For her, in a funny way, and I don't think she would have thought about it quite this way, but from my perspective, the oranges became like a symbol for her of the potential for a better life than she had where she came from. And so when I was growing up, and I never realized this until years later, my mom would send us out around Christmas. She would send my dad and I out to get all kinds of groceries, because she would spend 2 or 3 days just cooking a crazy feast. But she liked to fill the house with two things. One, fruit.
Yeah.
Specifically, lots of oranges. We would look for the best, or we had to have great
The
oranges.
best oranges.
And I didn't know until
Yeah.
years later that
Yeah.
it was because oranges meant so much.
Well, what about those
Because I
oranges I got the other day? I'm going back to that store to get more.
It's incredible.
What were they called? Mandarins?
I think they were mandarins.
Yeah,
They were
it
really,
was
really good.
mandarin. I didn't know if it was mandarin tangerine. Yeah, but yeah, that's like me with avocado. It's a symbol of a better life because the first
So
time I had an avocado was
funny.
mind blowing. Yeah.
The other place she sent us was she sent us
Yeah.
to a place on Queen Street in Toronto at Euclid.
Mm-hmm.
You will remember the storefront
Mm-hmm.
because it became a restaurant later and they saved the storefront. It just said in red lettering, hand painted on a white sign, it said Chahowski.
Yes, Chahowski. Right down by Anita's old
That's right.
place. Yeah.
Two brothers, we said they made the best Polish sausage in the land. But really, what it meant was they had the recipe from wherever people in Poland were coming from.
Yeah.
It was the style of kielbasa that they liked. So when we were kids, we wouldn't consider having kielbasa at Christmas, which was de rigueur. You had to have it. We wouldn't consider having it from anywhere except kielbasa, except kielbasa land, except the Chahowskis. And so we would go and we would line up. Can you imagine this? There would be lineups on Queen Street for 2 blocks of us honkies there.
That's crazy.
Trying to get our kielbasa for Christmas or Easter.
Right.
And as much as they would make, they would bring it out in these huge coils, and you'd walk in there, and the overwhelming smell of garlic in this place is incredible. And that's basically all they sold. You would go in and you would say how many coils you want. And we would get pounds of this stuff, just pounds of it. And the way, and I'm going to tell you now, because there's people who don't realize this is what you got to do. What you got to do is you got to boil up your kielbasa.
I didn't know that.
You boil it up, and it puffs out, and it gets really, really juicy, and the skin splits. And then it is just incredible, and you have it with
muffins. You fry it a bit, or you eat it like that?
You can also you can fry it with eggs in the morning. It's allowed.
Yeah.
No one is like the kielbasa police are not going to find you and hunt you down.
Get some next week.
Oh yeah.
Get some next week. Well, I am glad. One of the main reasons I'm pleased about your walking tours right now is I was seriously worried about you the last couple of years. There had been talk between Stag and I that Eugene is. I'm very recluse and homebound, but it's not good for me. I know that. I'd prefer to stay in a room doing whatever I do, drawing, reading, whatever. I would lock myself away. It's not healthy for me. I get depressed from it too much. But I was worried because usually you're a man about town and you're up and doing things, and it was like your world seemed to
I
be
was still doing lots of things, but my things were in a smaller circle.
Within 50 feet.
You know, I mean, like I've been putting in a tremendous amount of effort to try to learn to play the fiddle.
Absolutely, I'm criticizing that.
Which has taken a huge amount of effort. I mean, and now I can play a bunch of tunes, and it almost sounds like music. It doesn't sound horrible anymore.
Absolutely.
So it's taken, when you try to learn something in your 60s, that is easy to learn when, like, really 6 instead of 60s when I should have started. I lost a digit. I got mixed up.
But you were playing music small.
I was playing music before.
Yeah.
But
you were little.
Yeah, but when I was a kid.
Yeah. But it was in there, your brain.
Yeah, but I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
My mom sent me for accordion lessons. Years later, I wish that I had kept it up when I started to really play the button accordion.
Right.
But yeah, so it's time to start spreading out, and I'd like to take you folks with me. So did I mention that it would be good if you were to subscribe to Rediscovering My Toronto?
Right, Rediscovering My Toronto on YouTube, and you'll see Eugene's face pop right up there. And
my mug.
There's at least a couple videos already up there for you.
There are 3.
There are 3. Okay.
So let's move on from Rediscovering.
Okay, but that was great, Eugene.
We have gone to see 2 movies together.
We have
in the last week or so. So let's talk about them.
Okay, sounds good.
First one. Well, let's talk about the most recent one. We saw the other night. We went to see what was Glenda Jackson's last film, and was probably be Michael Caine's last film. I don't know if he's doing any more.
I don't
It's
either.
the Great Escaper.
Yes.
So stop at the drugstore on the way to the theater and buy. Everyone's going. He's going to need a personal box of
Oh
Kleenex.
my God. I had no idea.
I bawled my eyes out through the entire movie,
Yeah, so did I.
start to finish.
Start to
So
finish.
if you need a catharsis,
Yes.
if you need to go bawl your eyes out for a while, this is the movie to go see.
And I'm not really sure even how to describe why those tears just, I thought it was maybe because of my grandparents, but everybody has grandparents. I thought
Certainly
maybe it was
our
because-
generation, where our parents and grandparents may have been part of the Second World War,
True.
and that, you know, it's a film based on a true story
Yeah.
about a guy named Bernie Jordan,
Mhm.
who in 2014 escaped from his nursing home to go to France for the 70th anniversary of the D-Day landings, of which
Right.
he took part.
And they live in a.
Oh God, I'm tearing up just
I
talking,
know,
thinking about this movie.
I know.
can't
It's,
stand it.
I was really worried about if we were going to be able to talk
We
about
didn't
it.
talk about it at all.
They live in a very nice, supportive environment.
I know.
where
Don't you want to end up in that nursing home?
It was a very
tell
nice
you.
apartment because they had their own little apartment, but people could come in and check on them. It's not locked, but they had a kitchen, they had a living room, they had their personal items in there. It wasn't generic like a hospital. It was a very nice home. And
And it's a love story.
it's a love
It's a-
story.
It's a story
First
about.
and foremost, I
It's
would
a love
consider it
story.
a love story.
As the Glenda Jackson's character Irene said, we haven't wasted 1 minute of our lives together.
Yeah, that made me cry too. So the feeling of it being a love story is it starts out and you only really, the entire movie really takes place over, I'm going to say at the most 4 days.
Yes.
And one of those days is in 1944, no, 1942 or something. You see the couple when there's flashbacks and you see them.
Oh yes, you see the meeting.
Just the night they meet. I don't, and they stay up all night. I don't think you see them in any other context.
That's right. You see at a certain point in the dawn is very important to them.
Yeah.
Because it's a particularly beautiful moment at like 4 in the morning.
Well, this relates to Perfect Days for me in some ways because Perfect Days, which we talked about, the Wim Wenders film, is about a man who seems to be in tune with being in the moment. He's got a spiritual life, for however you want to say it. And I would say these characters, they're real human, also believe in a spiritual life. It comes up about 3 times during the film. One is that he calls that time in the morning the holy hour, which, you know, and he shows her their first date. They meet at a dance hall, and the casting is incredible of their flashback people. That partly chokes me up too. It's the fragility of time. Yeah. We're not going to make it through this film.
And
we're going to stay together here.
And also, Michael Caine and Glenda Jackson
are fabulous.
Are not just fabulous; they're gorgeous.
They're gorgeous.
Glenda Jackson's face is so beautiful.
They're perfect.
So sculpted, so gorgeous to me. It's just stunning.
And I mean, Michael Caine is probably one of your favorite actors, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and so when I was watching the film and knowing it's, you know, maybe his last film,
Yeah.
I could see in my mind's eye the Ipcress file.
Oh yeah.
With the dark glasses, with the dandruff, and the whole bit.
I should watch that again. So in fact, they're playing 90-year-old characters, and they are 90. I think she was too, but he was definitely 90 when he made this film, which is just don't assume people don't have a life after the age
That's
of
right.
50.
Well, that's one of the also
I think
beautiful things about
the
this
beautiful
film.
thing about it, and same as Perfect Day, is the kind of integrity of living, is that you do really realize how fragile life is. And any spiritual belief, they always say live in the moment. Realize how abundant your daily life is and how much if you're in the moment, and be appreciative. And this couple really is doing that. So you meet their caregivers, you meet each other. We don't know if they have children. We don't know about their entire life. We know about the day they met, and we know about these 2 or 3 days.
Yes.
Where he takes off. We see him running errands. And by running errands, I mean walking very slowly with his walker.
It's just so delightful because you know he's going to do it.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of set up, and you know he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And he has to sneak out.
Yeah.
And off he goes.
Yeah. To go to this reunion where he has no support. No one encourages him to do it except his partner.
In which everyone's there because they have to be there.
Yeah.
And everybody who's there, whether they landed on the beach or were a veteran of other wars, in some way or another are broken.
Yeah.
And they're going there to get fixed.
Yeah, that's
to
true.
fix themselves.
That's true, because we do run into about, I guess we kind of see 8 people. So he takes off, he gets a bus, he catches a taxi. He can't get on the bus. He takes a taxi to the ferry, and the ferry must take about 3 hours. I don't know how long it does. I wanted to go research. I
I
didn't
don't
know
know,
there
the Channel
was
Ferry? I have
yes,
no
there's a
idea.
channel, and then there's a ferry. He gets on this ferry and it looks very nice and comfortable, and he meets a couple of other veterans and they chat and have some drinks, and some of them drink a lot and some of them don't. And he meets a young man who helps him out that's also a veteran, and they kind of have a
Yes.
rapport with
And
each
he
other.
meets also an older man who was an Air Force man.
Yes, at the same time.
And you learn that this guy, he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And then you learn that he bombed cities
Yes.
and he had to live with that. And
Yes. Yeah, it's very upsetting. All of this stuff does make you just start crying.
I'm telling you,
Because they even seem almost unlikable. And at one point, you think Michael Caine doesn't like this guy, but in fact, they both tell each other it was an honor to meet each other. So you see them over 2 or 3 days. Michael Caine is very focused on his activities during this time. He has a real purpose that he wants to be there. He doesn't really care so much about the pomp and circumstances. He wants
That's
to
right.
visit the grave of someone he served with.
yes.
And he's going to return something that the fellow gave to him
That's
and
right.
put it on the grave.
And also, he hears some people speaking in German
Mhm,
and says, "Who are those people?"
mhm.
And he
Oh,
finds out they're the enemy.
They're the enemy. Well, they're German soldiers.
They're German soldiers
came
who,
to-
who were on the beach
Of course.
shooting at him.
Of course.
And so he says, "Can I go talk to them?"
Yeah.
And they end up saluting each other.
Yeah. It's just
So
I
here
don't
your
think- I
podcasters, your podcasters are here bawling their eyes out
I
again.
think we're doing the worst story of telling the plot.
All
of this
right,
'cause
so
it
we're gonna
makes
move
no
on.
sense.
Get your Kleenex.
I don't think it makes any sense how we're telling the story of the plot.
Get your Kleenex. Just go see this one.
It's so good. You will really enjoy
it's
it.
really one of the most beautiful films.
It really is. And it's filmed very thoughtfully and very meditative. It's, there's no one's walking fast. We're lucky they're walking. So that's the speed of this movie.
Yes.
And I would take it from there. I think that's the other joy is that, it goes against the nature of action films and goes against the compelling drive to be big budget and lots of plot.
Yes.
It's the opposite of all those things.
That's right.
Again, like Perfect Day.
And we also went to see
The
the
biggest-
opposite.
Yeah.
The opposite of this movie.
Yeah.
We went to see the most expensive, historically, the most expensive film ever produced in Australia.
It's just the tissues.
They spent $333.2 million making this film.
Wow.
And it's a film called Furiosa.
Yeah, it's so good.
Also a wonderful film.
And
Now,
also,
I have criticisms of this film, but it's still, I'm just going to say it is just a mandatory film. Just go see it.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I loved it. And I think in the same way that the previous movie, The Great Escaper, the Michael Caine and Glenda Jackson movie, pushed some of the boundaries of time and pacing. Of course, Furiosa and Mad Max do it, but in a different way.
Yes.
They're condensing, the whole vast land of Australia into these screens, and they do a beautiful job. The cinematography,
The cinematography is
the editing.
just stunning.
yeah.
Now,
Tell
I'll
us
get
what
I'll get into some of my
Yeah,
criticism.
yeah,
Okay, first of all, it's the fifth installment, and normally, I mean, after the third installment of anything, I'm done with it,
Yeah,
right?
you are.
But there's still a lot here, I think. But there were some challenges. First of all, I didn't understand
Uh-huh.
that. I didn't understand that the character Furiosa was the same character from Fury
really?
Road, played by a different actress.
Oh, interesting.
I
I didn't notice
did-
that. When did you figure that out?
After the movie,
Oh, no way, Eugene.
because
Oh,
here is at the heart of my criticism.
yeah,
In Fury Road,
yeah.
I don't remember anything about the characters or the plot or
Mm.
any of that stuff,
Right.
because I thought it was something that you have to have in
Uh-huh.
order to have a film, but that was really it.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the particulars and go out in the middle of the desert and have at it, right? But this film, they've spent an awful lot of time with things like plot and character, and so that confused me because
Mm.
first of all, they switched up actresses.
Mhm. Well, she's younger. She's playing her younger.
Well, that's what they're saying,
They're
but
saying,
I
okay.
wonder if they just couldn't get Charlize for this
I
one.
don't know. Yeah,
You know,
maybe.
or maybe she wanted too much money, and so
Yeah.
you don't know really the reasons.
Right, right.
You don't just know what they say.
She may not. She may have a personal thing that she doesn't do franchises or sequels.
It could be. So this one instead, it has people playing the character at different ages.
Yes.
And the adult Furiosa is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who you might remember from Peaky Blinders, but you will definitely remember
Yeah.
because she played Beth Harmon in one of my favorite series, Queen's Gambit.
That's right.
The chess series.
That's right.
The series that has taken the game of chess and revitalized it worldwide.
Right,
I
right.
mean, it's just chess has gone crazy.
Yeah.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. People are going for chess
Totally.
since that series.
Now, you may not have noticed, now maybe the title of the previous movie, Fury Road, makes more sense to you. It's the road she delivers gas and supplies on. Furiosa drives Fury Road. Okay. Oh, that is so interesting. I would have whispered to you, you know, this is the same character.
Oh, and I also had trouble because she disguises herself as a boy.
Yes.
And so first you see this little
Yes.
girl who looks like a boy.
Yeah.
And then you see this young boy who's really a girl.
Don't you think it's wonderful that you didn't realize it? It shows that it actually was working.
Well, it told me that none of that mattered.
Yeah, well, it didn't matter. It mattered to the characters.
But yeah, I didn't really understand.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, in fact, I whispered to Sheila. Because I'm stupid. I don't always.
It's good.
I don't remember always the some of those details from other films and stuff. When I'm watching it, there I am in the moment watching this thing, trying to figure it all out.
Well, yeah, because we had a different view on it. We'll get to it, but you and I had a different view on it because I believed it was very critical that she does in the Fury Road. Charlize Theron character only has one arm, and she has a robotic arm the other. We find out the origin story of how that happened. For me, we saw different arms that she lost. For me, there's no story without her losing the important arm. If I wrote it and you wrote it, wouldn't you make her lose that arm? If she's going to lose an arm, wouldn't you make her lose the important arm?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But you had said that you thought that there was more hope if she had lost the other arm. And I was like, I think it was about her choosing hope over freedom is hope rather than hope being home.
Okay.
Maybe.
I didn't really think about it.
I don't know.
Because of course I didn't make any of those connections.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I was just like, get back out in the desert.
Yeah. We'll get back to that. But it's also set at a very time. I want you to finish. You've got the cast and the director going on here, and I don't want you to lose your space.
Okay, so I don't have a list of
Anya
Taylor-Joy was the main actor, and
there's Tom Burke was one of the guys who comes later in the film. He was quite compelling. He's almost like a Mad Max character. I think his name was Tom Burke. And then you've got a cast of incredible characters. Chris Hemsworth was very good.
They were all really, really
Everybody
good.
was really good.
You know, it was successful enough that I didn't think in terms of the actors.
Yes, good.
I was just sort of totally into the characters.
Yeah, me too.
Which were delightful. And the one thing I liked about the dialogue, because they did have more dialogue than the last film for certain, is the dialogue was really funny.
Yeah.
They were making fun of themselves in the dialogue, and I thought that was really kind of delightful.
True. And it did have that gave it a kind of an upbeat situation. So you're going to go through this. It takes time. The time frame, as opposed to the first movie we mentioned, in maybe you get 4 days. This one has 17 years, 18 years.
Well, yes, and the time was another thing that I struggled with.
Strange.
Because you go through all this time very, very quickly, and whatever clues they were giving us that this is what they were doing, I had trouble understanding it. Oh, she's getting older, and it's just time is compressed.
Yes.
I didn't really get that until suddenly it's like, oh yeah, we just had 15 years here. What happened? Because you get so little of what happens. You just get like key points.
Right.
Of what happens during that period of time.
It begins with definitely the same universe, the same kind of universe that George Miller, the director and creator of co-creator of the series. It's dystopian, it's post-apocalyptic, and the apocalypse or the situation changes slightly over all the years the movie has been made from 1979 until now. There's gas shortages, and peak oil has been reached with the first Mad Maxes. So we're out of gasoline. At some point in it with Thunderdome, it's almost like there's been a war and it's even worse. So it kind of changes. It's adapted. These movies have adapted with the way we look at resources, which is very interesting.
The curious thing is when I saw Fury Road and loved it, I didn't pay any attention to any of that.
Well, because all you're doing is you get attached to a character. They give you the hero, a couple of heroes, maybe two
I
heroes,
was attached to the action.
and then all you're doing is fighting these cars or fighting each other. It's like a circus.
Yes, it was like this wonderfully complex choreographed dance,
Yeah.
or like a painting unveiling itself
Yes,
across the desert.
absolutely.
And that was what made it beautiful for
Oh,
me.
so
And that's
beautiful.
why when I saw this one and there was these characters
There's
and
the
plot and stuff,
story.
it's like get past this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Let's get to more of the Fury Road.
Well, they do call it a saga. They say it's a Mad Max saga, and it is an origin story. I mean, Fury Road, she was so beloved, I guess, Fury, that they had to create a more storyline behind for her. I'm thinking that's what happened was that people love this female character. And it begins with her as a child, and she is playing around in the forest and getting fruit. And it's actually a lush area. It's almost like a large oasis, like a stereotypical rainforest. And some bandits see her and her sister, and they kidnap her, and they're going to take her back to their leader. How do you say his name? Chris Hemsworth. Dementos. Dementus?
Something like
I
that.
always forget how to say it. And
They had great names,
They did.
and I think Furiosa is actually Imperator Furiosa.
oh, I bet it is. Yes, Imperial. Yeah, well, that's a good one because they have names like the Organic Mechanic and Rictus and Rectus or something. I don't know. They're so crazy. You can find them on Wikipedia. They're just like the craziest casting. And
Scrotus and Rectus.
that's it. Scrotus and Rectus. Yeah, figures.
I
yeah.
think I started to laugh
Yeah,
out loud.
exactly. So they kidnap her, and her whole thing is she's put to work at doing little errands around this encampment of bandits and oil thieves. I'm sure they have a word for it, but they're just living in the desert and trying to get by and sell oil and fight
Yes,
for it.
and we see in this film that in the vastness of the desert, there are oases,
I love that.
oasis of civilization,
Yeah,
each that have their own thing,
and own business. So
their own business. Yes,
you really start to see the universe, the rest, what instead of Mad Max just being on the cameras and the fight sequences, it's pulled back and you see like
The
half
bigger
the
picture.
country
yes.
of how people technically are living. So I found that really interesting because that's sort of fan fiction.
It was
Yeah.
interesting, and well, I do criticize things like plot
No,
in an art
It's
film
okay.
like this.
Yes.
I'm okay with it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to give this one a solid just go see it
Yeah,
recommendation.
I would too. And I want to bring up the one other thing too is that so she I don't know, do we want to give away anything in this? Maybe not.
I don't think we
No,
have
I don't
to.
think we have to.
Just
I
go
think
watch
you
it.
should go see it 10 out of 10. Maybe
You are
8
not
out of
going to
10.
need the box of Kleenex
No.
for this one, but if you go for a double header and you're going to see
Yeah.
The Great Escaper and Furiosa on the same day, you're going to have to decide whether you want to do your crying first or your crying at the end.
Right. And we don't care about box office stories or anything like that right now.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out. We got a few more movies to see this summer. It does look like there's a few that are going to be a lot of fun. I want to see The Bike Rider. I want to see.
I haven't seen Civil War yet, and
You
you
have to see it. I've seen it twice.
So I will see it,
you
and then
Stay should go see it.
yes, and
Yeah.
then I can
And we
talk
can
to
talk
you
about that too. Yeah. All right.
I wanted to talk about one other thing today that's on my mind is that I'd like to give just a few words around a new book that's come out because it's, well, both because it interests me, but also because I've met the author of the book. The book is called My Memories of John Hartford by Bob Carlin. And I met Bob Carlin probably in 2014, and maybe over 2 or 3 years at Midwest Banjo Camp,
Yeah.
which at that time was in Olivet, Michigan, near Lansing. Old time music freaks from everywhere would converge on this camp. And there was like a dividing line ran down the center of town: the bluegrass guys and the old time guys. It's like the guys with the pompadours and the guys without, and the bus that mentions Jesus on the bus and stuff like that. Anyway, I met Bob Carlin. I had breakfast with him, and he told me all kinds of stories. I'm sure that Bob wouldn't remember me because he meets lots and lots of people, but I really enjoyed meeting him and hearing about some of his experiences with various different musicians. He told me, for instance, about teaching with Dwight Diller, the banjo player,
Mm,
who he said liked to refer to himself as D White.
mm,
My name is D White.
mm.
And he was very strident about how he taught. Uh, he said, there was the white way and the wrong
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I really enjoyed being able to meet Bob Carlin. He's a very interesting musician. He's a banjo player and a guitar player, and he was the banjo player in John Hartford's last string band.
Mm,
So he worked closely with John Hartford through the last, say, quarter of
mm,
his life. And John Hartford was a musician who struggled with cancer to the last 20 years of his life. I mean, he had cancer and then it came back and it came back. And he played through his illnesses for quite a long period of time. And the string band consisted of, well, John Hartford as
uh-huh.
frontman, Chris Sharp on guitar, Bob
Mhm.
Carlin on banjo, Matt Combs on fiddle, and Chris Schatz on bass, and Mike Compton on mandolin.
Mm,
And I want to mention that one of our previous guests
mm.
on this podcast, Joe Newberry,
Yes.
plays in a duo with
Oh,
Mike Compton,
wow.
known
Wow.
as Compton and Newberry.
Yeah,
So there's a bit of a connection there.
yeah.
Uh, and Bob tells a very interesting story about a really tremendously complex, super creative person who, in the face of growing health problems,
Mm,
dove deeper and deeper into his music.
mm,
Uh, and it's a fascinating story.
mm,
Um, Fascinating to see how John Hartford musical concerns shifted over the years,
mm.
and how his music changed, and how Carlin was part of that. So it's a lovely book.
Oh,
Um, I had seen a post, and it might have been a post from Bob's
yeah.
Facebook page saying the book was out or was going
Oh,
to be out, and I
right.
pre-ordered it, and
Yeah.
then I completely forgot about it. And one day here it
It
came
just
by
showed up.
showed up
I
by
love
mail, and
that.
it's like, oh yeah, I remember I pre-ordered this. So I read it. It's quite a delightful book. It's
Yeah.
it's presented as like reportage.
Hmm.
It's fairly dry in the way that Bob uh, tells the story, but it's a very interesting
Mm,
story about a most interesting time in the life of one of the great performers, I think, of the 20th century,
mm,
in my
mhm,
opinion.
mhm. Very cool. Yeah, great. How does this, what time frame is it? A whole life or a time period?
Oh, it would have
His
been.
whole life, does it tell the whole story of his
Oh,
life, like childhood or
it it starts off. It has a chapter
yeah.
that is everything prior to
Mm,
the last segment of Hartford's life, when Carlin met him and
yeah,
got to know him
yeah.
and started working with him, and that's what most of the book is about.
Mm,
So it focuses on the last part of Hartford's life, but it does talk in to some degree about um, how he had a meteoric kind of rise to fame, both because of the song.
mhm.
He wrote a little song that was recorded by a fellow named Glenn Campbell called Gentle on My Mind.
Yeah, I love that.
It was a bluegrass song. He wrote it as a bluegrass song, and it was recorded as a
Wow.
pop song. And I don't know, it made Glenn Campbell's career. No,
Mm, yeah,
I think
probably.
so.
I think it's
Uh,
probably true.
and then through that, he got himself a job as like the musical director on a television show
Hmm.
known as the Smothers Brothers Show.
Damn, there you go.
So, what an interesting place and time to
Interesting.
be. What
Mm.
stories he would have had from that
Oh
period of time,
my God.
huh? And um, later on, Hartford really started to focus more and more on his fiddle playing and
Mm,
less on his banjo
mm,
playing.
mm. Very cool. So he was like an original hipster.
In a lot of
Yeah, in
ways,
a lot of
yeah.
ways.
Well,
Yeah.
and if you look at pictures of Hartford, he had a kind of more of a hippie sort of look with
Hmm.
long hair
Hmm.
and a beard.
Okay.
And later on, he didn't have that.
Hmm.
And for a while, before the last string band, he recorded solo,
Mm,
and he was able to also tour solo. And he
Wow.
felt that it was important to be able to have those skills to do that, to hold an audience as one
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
and to be essentially a one-man
It is a
band.
skill. That's true.
So um, he added dance to
Really?
his, yes,
Oh.
he added dance to his show, and he would often um, he wore really nice shoes,
Ah.
which was he talked about. I think Benny Martin and Flattened Scruggs, and he saw their like wingtip shoes.
Oh wow.
And heard the bluegrass music and heard Earl Scruggs and just thought, this is the life for me. Oh, yes, yes, yes. And he went out and got himself a fancy pair of shoes too, which
Nice.
he always wore. But yeah, he added dancing.
And so the sound of his feet would add to the music.
That's correct. And he
Yeah,
would
okay.
put sand down
Oh damn, nice.
so that you could
That's
sand down
amazing. That's almost like
or
being a
sandpaper
drummer.
on
Yeah,
the shoes. I'm
that's
not
cool.
sure.
It's almost like being a drummer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're getting all those parts moving.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And it's really expanding the kind of old timey approach he was taking at that time with the dance.
Very cool.
So I'm recommending that book. It's not maybe a mainstream sort of book. If you just hate old time and bluegrass music, you might not like it. If you've never heard of John Hartford, you might like it. If you hate the Mississippi River and riverboats, you might not like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Hartford also, one of the things he did was he always wanted to be a riverboat captain, and he worked on riverboats, and he finally got his credentials to become an honest to God riverboat captain on the Mississippi River
So cool.
and the Cumberland River.
So cool. I'm just trying to find a listing, if I can, of something coming up in the north. If you're listening up north, because I saw Christina Hutt perform as the Patsy Cline. Was it Project Patsy? Oh, Experience, the Patsy Cline Experience.
I like that.
And she is playing it again, doing it again in I just want to see where, in Huntsville on August 1st. It's a brunch. And if you're up in Huntsville and in the area, go find Christina Hutt, just like it sounds,
We
Hutt.
could go for the day.
I know, I was thinking that too. August 1st, it would be good because I'll tell you, after we played, I was just gonna leave. I saw them perform in Halliburton. I was gonna leave.
And we should say that one of the band members is a
Is.
former guest
And
and
friend of
friend of ours.
and his name is Lopez or Michael Phillips. So he was in the band.
You might know him as the Mighty Lopez.
The Mighty Lopez is what Patsy Cline introduced him as, the Mighty Lopez. And so we saw the performance. It was fantastic. They played 2 sets, and the band sounded really, really good. And
And they wore nice shirts.
They wore amazing shirts. They dressed well, and her voice is incredible. It was her initial performance of the Patsy Cline Experience, and she's only going to get better. And afterwards, I went up. I saw Lopez leaving, so I went to say hi. I thought he was going to stroke out. He looked so shocked.
I could just imagine
Yeah.
his mind going
Like,
back
how
in
did you
time.
go back
Say,
to Chicago.
It's you.
And from Chicago to all of a sudden in Lakeland, Playland. Yeah.
Yes.
So, and we could also drive around and see cool places to open a gallery or live.
You might want to open a gallery and live up there. Have fun. As I mentioned to a friend of ours who
Yes.
moved up north,
Yes.
there's 2 things holding me back from that experience.
Right.
Winter and black flies.
I know. Well, winter's everywhere in Ontario, isn't it? Or is it less and less places?
It's more in some
Oh,
places.
yeah. Well, for sure, it's northern Canada. It's northern Canada. Yeah.
It's like when I worked for Canada Post,
Yes.
around Christmas time, they used to send me places to do TV
Right.
related work.
Right.
I would bring in people from news hosts from TV channels to the
Mhm,
plants,
mhm.
and they would show everybody busily working on the Christmas
Mm,
parcels, and we would
mm.
have people reading Santa letters and that kind of thing. But some people would get to go to Vancouver, and
Yeah.
some people would get to go to Montreal. I would get Edmonton and Winnipeg. Once I got Calgary, I was a little bit better because there was a Chinook. But they sent me once to Edmonton.
Oh, it's so
And
cold. Oh,
The snow started while the plane was landing.
yeah.
It snowed nonstop for 4 days.
Yeah.
And once the snow stopped, the temperature dropped to about -60.
Oh God, it's
and I thought, humans live here.
yes, it's insane.
I'm sorry, I'm not insulting Edmonton. I understand it's a beautiful place in the summer. And if my work had ever sent me there in the summer, I would know that.
I know.
But all I knew was like bleak winter. And in the streets during the snowstorm, there are hundreds of snow
I know,
plows
it's
pushing it
terrifying.
aside. I've never seen so many
Terrifying.
snow plows.
It's terrifyingly cold up there. That is for sure. We also want to mention the garden tour, right?
Yes, the garden tour is coming up. The former Long Branch garden tour in our little
Mhm.
community of Long Branch in the southwest corner
Mhm.
of Toronto.
Mhm.
The garden tour has
Hey, hi.
the garden tour has expanded, and it's now the Lakeshore West Garden Tour, and it encompasses Mimico,
Mm.
New Toronto,
Mm.
Long Branch, and Alderwood. And there's close to 60 gardens this year.
Amazing. What's the date?
The date is June
All
22nd,
right.
and there's going to be go to the website, search garden Lakeshore West Garden Tour. Go to the website and check out the events
Mhm.
because you'll want to come out for the opening talk and flower toss.
Mm.
It's going to be in one of the gardens, and the tattooed gardener Paul Galatly is
Oh,
going
yeah?
to be there, and he has a special giveaway for people who come to that event.
Oh.
I'm not going to give away
No.
what that giveaway is, but
And Frankie
just
Flowers is going to be touring around too.
and we just heard today that Frankie Flowers is going to be doing the weather in one of the gardens.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Again.
Yay.
Some people may remember seeing our dog at that time.
That's
The
right.
wonderful George
That's
was
right.
on TV with Frankie Flowers
Yes.
in the past, so that's really exciting. And I think it's going to be a really huge event. It is Canada's biggest free garden tour.
Wow.
And it's the place to be.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that along the lake shore, there are places where you can rent bikes.
That's a
So
great
you can
idea.
take transit down. You could rent a bike so you can get to all the
Yeah,
gardens.
I love it.
Because it's a lot of gardens to get to, and it's a lot of walking.
Yeah.
Some people will drive, and they'll drive to like a hub and
Yes.
park, and then go see a bunch of gardens
Very
and drive
cool.
to another hub. Or you could take bicycle, or you could just walk, or you could target some of the gardens if you can't get to all of them.
Mhm.
But if you like gardens and gardening, this is the place to
Oh,
be.
yeah.
And the only event I can think of that's bigger is Garden Walk Buffalo,
Oh, wow.
which is also really fabulous and highly
Mhm.
recommended. So Lakeshore West Garden Tour,
Mhm.
June 22nd,
Mhm.
and it's pretty much all day.
Yeah.
You can get brochures at participating businesses along the lake shore in our community
And you can walk down 27th.
and see our place.
That's right. That's right. I'll be taking photos around, but I'll be in and out too. But I'll be taking
Excellent. There's a
photos of
rumor
different- yes.
that Candy might be doing some filming for a YouTube channel that you've just subscribed to
That's right.
called Rediscovering My Toronto.
That's right. So subscribe and then check out the garden tour.
Absolutely. Have we got anything
I
else?
don't know.
Is that
I'm
it?
blank. Yeah.
We've talked enough.
Well, I did watch Dark Matter, but we'll talk about it next time. I'm going to try and get you to watch it.
All right.
It's on Apple TV, and I highly recommend it. It's caught my attention.
So we're going to cut you loose and catch you
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Wishing you all the big numbers for now.
Yeah.
And
And
we love you.
And we're digging your algorithms.
But we would like some emails.
Yeah.
So tell us what you think about everything.
That's right. Theagency.podcast@gmail.com. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.